is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 36 of the WrestleBread Podcast. We have the Royal Rumble coming up this Sunday. We also have Worlds Collide coming up on Saturday. And it really doesn't feel like the Royal Rumble is coming. We had Monday Night Raw last night, and I must say it was a very weak go-home show for what is one of the top 4 pay-per-views of the year. I mean, this is the start of the WrestleMania season, and it just kind of fell flat for me. I didn't see, there wasn't that many promos about the Royal Rumble. I remember probably maybe, I don't think they did it last year, but definitely 2 years ago, they'll sit there and run the numbers of how many people have been in the Royal Rumble, who had the most eliminations, which number from the Royal Rumble entrance won the most times, which is number 27. And it really wasn't really a lot of that. It was mainly just the little 10-second commercial that says that the Royal Rumble is coming. But looking at what happened between Friday Night Smackdown and Raw, you really can't tell that there is a big pay-per-view event coming up. It just feels like it's like a regular pay-per-view event, I would say maybe TLC or even Extreme Rules, just one of the pay-per-views that comes after the big 4 that, WWE really don't put too much effort into. So it's kind of disappointing. Looking over for the past week, I would say AEW really wasn't that good this past week. One of the things that AEW really struggles with is the women's division. We had a tag team match that featured the Nightmare Collective, and I really don't know what to think of them. I don't know if I should be, I mean, I'm not intimidated by them, but I should really care for them. I think there's too much emphasis on this group and all these gimmicks that we're not concentrating on actual women's wrestling. I mean, we taken away the spotlight from Riho, from Britt Baker, and a lot of other women who was mainly featured when AEW first started, and now it's turning into I don't know, not really a disaster, but it feels like it doesn't really matter. There's not a lot of emphasis or importance into what's going on with the women's division. They're not concentrating on the wrestling portion, just mainly the storyline. Another thing also is the rules for tag teams. I really like the tag team division of AEW, but these rules that they have for the tag team matches are a bit messy. I understand that they have a 20 count before anyone gets disqualified, which features a lot more double teams, but it seems like they're not really keeping track of the tag ins and outs. It seems like the referee kind of just it's pretty much you're watching a fatal 4-way or something. There's really no type of control or any type of strict rules when it comes to the tag team division. Of course, Cody Rhodes continued to shine. He accepted MJF's stipulations of going against Wardlow in a cage match, not fighting MJF into Revolution, which is their next pay-per-view event next month, and taking 10 lashes to the back, which Cody Rhodes accepted. So I don't know how they're going to do this. I think it's a very weird stipulation that may or may not be carried out. We also had a little bit of action of who is going to be the number 1 contender for Chris Jericho's title. It was Jon Moxley versus Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara has this thing where because they have the picture-in-picture during commercials, he brings out a bunch of signs that he will display that we read during the commercial, which I find very different and pretty funny. Of course, Jon Moxley won the match, But the lights then went out and the Inner Circle appeared in the ring, who of course beat down Jon Moxley 5-on-1 assault. And then Chris Jericho grabbed some type of pick or something like that, some sharp object, and proceeded to hit Jon Moxley, it looks like in the eye, with it. Jon Moxley comes out later with an eye patch, and of course a lot of people started to make a lot of jokes of Jon Moxley's eye, the pirate Moxley, you know, especially since it has been recently revealed that Chris Jericho suggested to WWE when they were fighting each other at the time for him to hit something in the eye with Jon Moxley, and Jon Moxley comes out with an eye patch. But we all know that that would have ended in such a disaster because Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley, was not very popular back then. We also had the other side of who will be the fighting for the number one contendership, which was Pac versus Darby Allin. Darby Allin is very popular with the fans. It's a shame that, I wouldn't say it's a shame, but I wish that they would do more with him so that he will get more of a spotlight. But I guess it's kind of good that he's fighting for the number one contendership and just really coming out there every week so that, he connects more with the fans. But I will say that Pac versus Moxley is a pretty good match. They did fight previously that ended in a time limit draw. I think it was Double or Nothing. I think it was then Double or Nothing, or maybe Fight for the Fallen or something like that. This past AEW though was called Bash at the Beach because they were in Miami and they had sand. They had a woman sitting in a lifeguard chair that they kept, of course, showing because she was only wearing a bikini. Moving on to the other side of Wednesday Wars, was NXT. NXT was a lot better than AEW, like I said a little bit before. We had the women's battle royal for the number one contender, which was Bianca Belair. They had a lot of newbies. Of course, they had Mercedes Martinez, which I'm pretty shocked that she actually signed with WWE after she was featured a little bit in AEW. But she did mention that it was a lifelong dream of hers to be signed to WWE, so I'm very happy for her. But of course, the NXT women's division is one of the best in the industry, so this battle royale definitely blew the roof off. There was a surprise elimination from Shayna Baszler she's a newbie, I forgot her name, but she had green hair. She reminded me of one of the characters from Mortal Kombat. That's how I remembered her. And we also had a triple threat match for the number one contender for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. And Lio Rush and Isaiah Swerve Scott. I would love to see a feud between these two. They did a impressive spot where Isaiah Swerve Scott was in the ring and Lio Rush was on the apron, and they both did a flip at the same time and landed onto the floor. Of course, Lio Rush won this match to become the number one contender, so it's going to continue the feud between Angel Garza and Lio Rush. I don't remember when this match will take place. I don't know if it's for the show or for the pay-per-view, because we do have Worlds Collide coming up. That may be featured on the Royal Rumble. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to have to double check that for my prediction show. We also had the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I don't know. I'm not really too much into the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Everybody's going crazy for Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne being together. I think on paper, it's a very good tag team. But I don't know. I'm not really that interested in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. Actually, I haven't really been interested in any of them. I think this is the third one we're doing, so I haven't been really interested in them. ever since we had Samoa Joe and Finn Balor in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. I don't know. I don't know why. I can't really explain why, but I'm just not really that interested in it. We also had Keith Lee, who is at the top of his game, is wanting to go against Roderick Strong for the North American title. He is the number one contender, and he cut a promo about how he is limitless. And then the Undisputed Era came out, attacked Keith Lee, and then Tommaso Ciampa comes out, and Johnny Gargano also came out too, which was a nice quick DIY reunion that everyone loved. And yeah, I think that was everything that happened on NXT this week. I may have missed something, I highly doubt it, but NXT was very solid. They're pulling up in the numbers too. I believe they were at 700,000 and AEW is at 900,000 this week. But I really appreciate, the Wednesday Night Wars. I'm just hoping that AEW will just, figure out their issues with the women's division, the rules with the tag team matches, and NXT will just continue to shine. I did have a prediction from my previous episode that NXT will cross over to possibly hitting 1 million, and AEW eventually have its lowest. Will have its lowest. I was saying maybe under 600,000. I think their lowest was 600,000. I don't really count the time where they hit 0 because it was a week that they said wasn't going to be a show, but it actually was like a recap show. So I don't really count that one. I count, the actual ones that had numbers with it. But we will see as we enter into the WrestleMania season of how each show is going to do. Looking back at Friday Night Smackdown, we had Kane, who declared that he will be in the Royal Rumble, which, I get why they did the segment because of the whole Team Hell No, Daniel Bryan popping out of nowhere and the Firefly Funhouse thing. But I'm like, why couldn't Kane be a surprise? Now, I don't know, I didn't know that, people in Greensboro loved Kane that much. He really got a big pop. And it's really a shame whenever you hear people who get big pops and stuff like that, especially the fact that it was the start of Raw. I had to sit there and think, was this a pre-tape show? Are they piping in the sounds? Because WWE is very infamous for fixing the audio for the audience. And I just couldn't believe that Kane got such a big pop. I mean, I understood why, because, he is a legend and everything. But it was a very big pop. It was I wouldn't say Stone Cold, but I would say maybe half a Stone Cold type of pop. But he declared that he was entering to the Royal Rumble. And then we got a pop-up of Bray Wyatt from the Firefly Funhouse, who mentioned that Kane, he already played with Kane. And then he mentioned that Bray Wyatt remembers. And it was they did a quick recap. I forgot what it was that Kane did to Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, but it was basically a continuation of the Fiend, a continuation of that, revenge type of storyline. The Fiend pops out. Kane was standing on the outside. The Fiend was up against the ropes, and Kane turns around and says, "What took you so long?" That's when Daniel Bryan comes out, attacks the Fiend. The Fiend disappears to underneath the ring as Daniel Bryan goes after him, and Daniel Bryan pulls out some of the locks from the Fiend. So I guess the Fiend will then cut his hair too, since that's what happened with Daniel Bryan. We also had a lot of Lacey Evans versus Bayley and Sasha Banks storyline going on. It's very funny that now, Lacey Evans is very popular, and she's a face now, and that they're somewhat using the fact that she is a mom and and is from the military, which I was hoping they would have done from the get-go. She seems pretty good as a heel, especially with, I'm a lady gimmick. But I felt as though she would have been better off as a face. Not really like John Cena like, but the fact that she was in the military, she's a mom, she worked hard. She was, I believe she got high in the ranks in the Marines as well. And I'm like, you damn near, I thought seriously that John Cena was in the Marines for as much military stuff he has done. I had to look it up one day, and he doesn't have any affiliation with the military. But we have someone who is part of the military, and, it's kind of funny how people was very upset that Lacey Evans was in the title picture, and now she is pretty much in the title picture again for a different title, and everyone is pretty much okay with it. I may have been one of those people, but it's okay, people change, your opinions of people change, but I'm happy that they're using the military background for Lacey Evans, especially after her match in Saudi Arabia. We also had more of the Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, and Robert Roode. But we also had the Usos helping out as well. I believe that Roman Reigns did mention that he will be entering the Royal Rumble match. And I still don't get what the play is with this Royal Rumble match, because we had Brock Lesnar, who declared he is entering the Royal Rumble match as number 1, but the title isn't on the line, which means if he wins, then he would go against The Fiend, and I guess it'll be title versus title on the line type of situation, which I hope we don't get to, because we can kind of guess which title will be given to who, but I really don't want to put that out there, which I kind of did just now. We also had John Morrison, who competed against Big E. And I am so happy that John Morrison had the same intro with the slow-mo and the pyro in the background. Like, it fits him so perfectly with the wavy hair, gently flying behind him type of thing. And The Miz seems very happy that John Morrison is back. I really hope we get the dirt sheets again, because they were hilarious together. And we see Kofi Kingston with blonde hair, which looks very weird on him. I'm not a fan of the blonde hair of Kofi Kingston. I just feel like he's maybe going through an identity crisis since he lost his title in about 8 seconds. I'm just going to chalk up the blonde hair to that, When you go through something so devastating that you don't even acknowledge it, that you just start doing weird things like dye your hair a color that really don't go with your skin or go with your face as well. We going into Monday Night Raw, we had Seth Rollins, who calls himself the Messiah of Monday Night, or Messiah of Monday Night Raw. I don't get why he keeps giving himself these nicknames. Like, we know you as Seth Rollins, you were the man's man and the architect and the Beast Slayer and, what was he? The Beast Slayer and some other Slayer, whatever. Like, come on. Like, just stick to Seth Rollins. But he is now accompanied with AOP and Buddy Murphy, who looks pretty nice in a black suit with tight fitting pants. He came out to say, he is with his disciples and all this other stuff. But then we had Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and the Viking Raiders, who came out to fight against them. Seth Rollins and the Squad retreats, and then we get a challenge for the tag team titles later on that night. We also had Rey Mysterio versus Andrade for the title. It was in a ladder match, which was pretty good. I don't know how Rey Mysterio was walking. There was a spot where Rey Mysterio was suspended in the air, holding on to the title, very similar to Jeff Hardy, I think it was, that had that spot, and it was Edge who did the spear. Except for this time, Rey Mysterio was hanging in the air, and Andrade was trying to grab him and I think to do a power bomb, but Rey Mysterio wasn't letting go. I was sitting there wondering what was taking so long, and he was grabbing Rey Mysterio, and Rey Mysterio kind of like fell very weird, and I'm surprised that both men were okay. There was also a spot where Rey Mysterio was trying to climb up the ladder, and Zelina Vega climbed up the other side of the ladder and stopped him. Andrade grabbed Rey Mysterio and did a DDT onto the ladder. The cat's playing with a toy. If you hear anything crazy in the background, that is Marquette, who decided that since her human is recording, she is going to suddenly play with her toy like it is. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear her now or not, but animals, what can I tell you? Yeah, so Andrade did a DDT onto the ladder breaks, and I don't know how both men were walking. In the end, Andrade wins the ladder match. Zelina then pulls up the mat to expose the concrete on the ringside, and then as Andrade was going to attack Rey Mysterio, I believe he was going to do a DDT onto the concrete. Someone jumped over the barricade wearing a Rey Mysterio mask. Takes off the mask as Humberto Carrillo. I forgot how to pronounce his last name. We haven't seen him for so long, I forgot how to pronounce his last name, but it is Humberto. And we now have, I guess we're leading on to Humberto versus Andrade, maybe? Or maybe even a triple threat match, possibly. But either way, it was very good to see him back. He had such a big push before he became injured and was out for a little bit. So it's good to see him back. Then we had a segment where they did a video package about Martin Luther King. It is, Martin Luther King holiday. I was off. A lot of people were off doing a lot of service as well. I will get to that a little bit later. We had Aleister Black, Zelina's husband, Aleister Black, going against, they didn't even mention this guy's name, but Aleister Black defeated him in less than 5 seconds. And, yeah, that's where we are now with Aleister Black. Since he no longer is going against Buddy Murphy, he is waiting for someone to knock on his door to pick a fight. And I just scared the heck out of my cat by doing that. Afterwards, we had Brock Lesnar came out. Paul Heyman cut a promo about Brock Lesnar being in the Royal Rumble. Was wondering who, in their right mind, who's the one person that will stand toe to toe against Brock Lesnar. And out comes Ricochet. Very interesting choice. I don't think that matchup will bode well for Ricochet. As we all know, Brock Lesnar loves to suplex the shit out of anyone who is smaller than him. We all seen what he did to Rey Mysterio and countless others as well. But Ricochet comes out, says he's not afraid of Brock Lesnar. He's not afraid to get in the ring. He gets in the ring with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is like, I'll spare your life, first off. And then proceeds to walk away. And then Ricochet sits there and says, oh, where are you going? What are you afraid of? Are you scared? And Brock Lesnar comes in. I thought he kicked him. I thought he gave him a low blow with his foot. But it looks like he only kicked him in the stomach. But I thought it was a low blow because, Ricochet drops immediately. And then Brock Lesnar picks up the mic, says not scared, then walks off. So I don't know I don't know what's going on with the fact that Brock Lesnar is in the Royal Rumble. I'm hoping that they put him in the Royal Rumble so that he can have a feud to whoever he's going against. But don't think that Brock Lesnar wants to be the main event of the Royal Rumble. I've come to realize Brock Lesnar does not want to wait around any longer than he has to be. So whoever Brock Lesnar is going against, he's going to be first on the card, just like he was last year. That way he can do whatever he needs to do and get the hell out of there. So I don't think that he's going to be winning it. I think whoever he's going against will eliminate him, and then it's going to build that feud. I have a theory about who will eliminate him. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will be the main event, but I highly doubt it. Next up, we had Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. I'm very confused with these two because I could have sworn they both were heels maybe 3 months ago, but it seems like now Randy Orton's a face and then Drew McIntyre's this weird, like, tweener, I guess. But of course, we had another shot of Drew McIntyre chopping the skin off of Randy Orton's chest. Randy Orton, of course, it looked like he was developing whelps. And he went to attack Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre tries to do a Claymore kick, but it hits someone at ringside. I get not really a timekeeper or anything, but some guy with a headset. And then eventually the OC comes out, starts attacking Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. Then Randy Orton went to get a chair. It seems like they'll be standing side by side in this weird way. But then Drew McIntyre turns his back. He goes to turn around and Randy Orton gives him the RKO. Drew McIntyre grabs the microphone and is like, okay, I see why it's called RKO out of nowhere, but it will never happen again. And he said, I will kick your face off, basically. And so I believe they both mentioned they're entering the Royal Rumble at that point, or they are going to be entering the Royal Rumble at that point. And yeah. So then after that, we had Becky Lynch, who cut a promo about how Asuka may be afraid of her and this, that, and the third. And I don't know. I'm sorry. Becky Lynch is starting to get very stale with me nowadays. I really like her. You know, I think she's different. She really did make a lot of history. But like I always said, Becky Lynch going after the title was a lot more interesting than having the title. But she did go against Kairi Sane and she won the match. And right after winning the match, Asuka attacks her, and then retreats, of course. And then after that, we had Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins versus the Viking Raiders. It was a pretty interesting match, and the winners are Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. So that is it to the Viking Raiders title reign, which I have to be honest, really didn't do much for them. They either was in jobber matches or they really didn't have that much of a meaningful feud, to be honest, while they had their title reign. I wish they could have had a longer reign with Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, but now we're entering the season of WrestleMania. So they need to take titles off of people so that they can set up whatever WrestleMania match they have get going. So Buddy Murphy is now champion, ladies and gentlemen. And there are a lot of people who are upset that Buddy Murphy has won the tag team title before the Street Profits. And if you're wondering, hey, what is going on with the Street Profits? I have something for you. After this match, we had the Monday after weekend update, which I don't know how this segment is okay to air, seeing as though it's a complete ripoff from the set to the graphics and everything, straight off of Saturday Night Live. And we had the Street Profits doing it. And it was very scripted. It was very bad. They added in this ridiculous, like, laughing track that I swore went on for too long as well. And it was pretty bad. And the Street Profits definitely deserve a lot more than this. And I felt that this was going to happen because they had them talking this whole time. They had them doing these backstage segments where, I mean, they had their moments where they're pretty funny and stuff, but they'll sit there and recap what's going on, or they'll talk about what's about to happen. And so I say it's our fault that we were dumb enough to not see this coming. Because now I really think of it, this was the road to where it was going to go. They were pretty much doing what the segment was. They'll give recaps of what happened on Raw. They'll talk about what's going on storyline wise and give their opinions about it. And because everyone laughed, the WWE creative was like, oh, let's keep this going. Let's put them in the weekend update. Everyone loves weekend update. We even had the host at last year's WrestleMania. So I think what may happen, and I'm very sorry that I'm putting this out into the universe, but I see it happening now. We're going to have the Street Profits versus Michael Chi and Colin Josh, or whatever his name is, going against each other. Because why else are we having this Monday after weekend update? And I really hope that we don't get a response from them on Saturday Night Live that they, WWE did this. But it's just very frustrating because the Street Profits were so talented, and they were very popular in NXT. And yes, they are funny guys, but why couldn't they be very similar to what the Usos were on Smackdown when they first went to Smackdown? They can joke and stuff, but when they get let them fight in the ring. Why can't they have a meaningful feud? And then they sometimes throw in some funny jokes, stuff like that. And I'm not talking about the Usi hot. That's Raw. I'm talking about when they were on Smackdown, when they did their business in the ring. Why couldn't we do that? And then yes, when they cut a promo and stuff like that, you could throw a couple of jokes in there and stuff and everything like that. But it's just so frustrating because this is what WWE does with their tag team division. They either make them jokes or they have nothing for them. Look at the Viking Raiders. Look at what they're doing at AOP. Look at what they're doing with the Street Profits, with the Revival, the Usos. I mean, the Usos had it pretty good. Even the New Day kind of had it pretty good. But it's like you have such talent and you're not doing anything with them. The Street Profits don't even have a feud. They're just recapping what's going on Raw, and it's just frustrating. There are some people that are offended by this because this is happening on Martin Luther King holiday, but it is what it is. This would have probably happened regardless anyway, because this is what they had them doing this whole time. It's a very dumb segment. It's disrespectful to their talent. It's disrespectful to the tag team division because we could have had a pretty good feud with them and somebody else. It could have been the Street Profits versus AOP. They could have joined Samoa Joe and KO. We could have had the Street Profits. I don't know. Just put them in an actual feud that means something. Throw together the tag team turmoil for all I care. But just give them something to do besides a pre-taped backstage segment with overly done laugh tracks. That's all I'm saying. After that, we had another waste, which was Matt Hardy versus Eric Rowan. This did nothing except for show that whatever he has in the cage is stabbing him. They keep saying it's biting him. I don't know. Bite marks really don't look like that. Bite marks that make you bleed, kind of makes you bleed a little bit, really. But it looks like he got stabbed in the middle of his hand. And I know that whenever we see what's in this cage will be a complete disappointment, unless it's one of the puppets for the Firefly Funhouse. Because we really haven't seen the puppets from the Firefly Funhouse recently. I have to really think. I don't think we have. So I'm going to hopefully guess that it is one of the puppets. And, we just do something with that. But I have a feeling that it's going to be something stupid. And the segment, this whole storyline will kind of be a waste of Eric Rowan's talent. They could have actually had a feud. But I guess, to try to be optimistic, at least he's on TV and we're talking about it. I mean, I guess that's a really bad way to look at it because look at the whole Lana and Bobby Lashley thing. At least, I'm sure they're sitting there saying, at least we're talking about it now. They have our attention. But I'm hoping that there is some type of good payoff with this whole mystery in the cage type of thing. It may get revealed at the Royal Rumble. It may get revealed leading up to WrestleMania. It may get revealed after WrestleMania. I have no idea what they're trying to do with this, but I'm hoping that it, for it to carry on for this long and be such a mystery that is actually one of the Firefly puppets in that cage or something. We also had the segment with Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy and KO and Joe all declaring that they're going to be in the Royal Rumble, which leads up to 22 people who have declared being in the Royal Rumble. So it seems like it's 8 more spots left. I'm going to guess maybe 6 of them, 4 to 6 of them, probably NXT or NXT UK. And maybe 1 or 2 or 3 surprises. I really hope last year they didn't really have that much of a surprise. I'm hoping we'll get some surprises this year. As far as like either people returning or people debuting, something like that. And then we end with one of the worst segments to have on a go-home show. We had a mixed tag team match of Bobby Lashley and Lana versus Liv and Rusev. I don't know why Rusev is still fighting Bobby Lashley. I thought he was happy that Lana divorced him and got married. I thought that Rusev was going to live his single man life and, live his life. But no, seems like we're just going to continue of him trying to beat up Bobby Lashley for some reason. I still don't know what is the whole payoff with Rusev. I mean, Bobby Lashley not only tapped that, but he married it. So I don't know what Rusev's trying to do now. You're free. You're free to do whatever with whoever. I mean, from what Lana was saying, he's a sex addict, which means, you're free to do whoever, wherever, in the tank, backstage, under the ring, whatever. But for some reason, he is, stuck on fighting Bobby Lashley. And Liv Morgan, who is now fighting Lana because she denied their relationship or something. I'm not quite sure why Liv Morgan is fighting. I mean, I guess because she's upset that Lana is getting married. But, I don't know. I don't know what the whole payoff is with this. I mean, we have the mixed tag team match, so it kind of fell flat. I was watching it for a little bit. I turned my head to have a mini conversation, then turned back, and the next thing I see is Ms. and Mrs. is on. So I have no idea how to end it. It sounded like it ended on a very bad note because a lot of people were complaining that it was one of the worst segments for a go-home show, which I completely agree. You wouldn't have thought that Royal Rumble was coming up this Sunday. I do plan to put out my predictions probably Thursday or Friday. I was thinking of doing it on Saturday, but we have the Worlds Collide coming up. So it may be either Thursday or Friday that the special episode 37 of the Royal Rumble predictions show will be coming out. I wanted to wait long enough so I can do predictions on the actual matches. But as we were told from TLC, they may be announcing matches within hours of the show. So I didn't want to, put out an episode too late that you don't have enough time to listen to it and react to it before Worlds Collide or the Royal Rumble. So whatever matches get announced afterwards, I'll just tweet out my prediction of who will win. As far as, what's going on in wrestling, did you watch that Conor McGregor fight? Did you pay for it? If you did, I feel bad for you. I grew up in the Mike Tyson era, so I know right off the bat you do not pay for a pay-per-view event just before the main event. The main event was pretty hyped up. Everyone thought that Cowboy was going to put it to Conor McGregor, thought that Conor McGregor would be rusty because he hasn't been in the octagon for probably over a year now. So people thought that Conor McGregor was going to, it was going to be a couple of rounds off of this. And I heard that people paid like $65 or $100 for this event, and I watched it for free. I didn't really like the Holly Holm match. It felt like Bayley was in the octagon for all the hugging and holding that was going on. The crowd was booing after a certain point, and Holly won by judge's decision on top of that. So I felt bad for her opponent. I forgot her name, but I felt bad for her because she lost, and it wasn't even like she lost because she got beat up. She lost because she couldn't get out of the hugging, pretty much. But, that main event, 40 seconds. 40 seconds, and Cowboy didn't even get any type of offense in, really. And like I said, I grew up, when I was growing up, Mike Tyson would have these events on pay-per-view, be hyped up and stuff like that. People, of course, saying that they're going to knock out Mike Tyson. There was this one time where my mom had a get-together for a Mike Tyson event, and she paid for the pay-per-view. Paid for it, had people over and everything. I got to stay up. I think it was in the summer or something. That's why I got to stay up, because just like these MMA events, the pay-per-view event, for the main event, it normally comes on like around 10 or 11 o'clock back then. So Mike Tyson comes out. I don't even know who he was going against, and it don't even matter. And he knocked out this dude, I would have to say, like 15 to 30 seconds. Like, it was definitely under a minute. And my mom was pissed off about it. Because, you paid money for a pay-per-view event, you paid for food, you had people over and all this other stuff. And Mike Tyson knocked this dude out in like 30 seconds. And my mom was done with it. And ever since then, we went and got the chip cable boxes. Now, for all you people who do not know what a cable box looks like, you should. We still have cable boxes to this day. But back then, it was literally a square box for cable. We had Comcast back then, and we had something called the chip, where they would do some type of, put in a chip or something in your cable box, and you'll be able to get all the channels and all the pay-per-view events for free. So that's how I got to watch every pay-per-view, all the In Your House, all the WrestleManias, Royal Rumbles, SummerSlams, and Survivor Series back then for free. And so my mom would then watch, all the pay-per-view events for free, all the Mike Tyson events. And we still had people who come over because we had the free cable, but at least my mom didn't have to pay $100 for something that, would be over in less than 30 seconds. So when I saw that Conor McGregor fight and he knocked him out in 45 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever, I started cracking up, because I was like, I know there's so many people who are pissed off that they paid $100 just for a 40-second fight. Unless you really liked the undercard and all this other stuff, then, it's worth it to you. But if you only paid just for that main event, hopefully you learned your lesson. Probably not, because you probably might pay for it again and then complain about it, and I probably see complaints again on Twitter. Another crazy weekend with football. We had now we have the Super Bowl of Kansas City versus the 49ers. Some people were hoping for Kansas City versus Green Bay, which would have been the State Farm Super Bowl, because, the commercials with Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. But it seems like Aaron Rodgers needs to go back to the drawing board and probably work on his discount double check or something, because it seemed like when he had the discount double check, he was a better quarterback than he is with just simply, I forgot his little agent's name, who's trying to get him the speed and all this other stuff, his agent, who was trying to, by his side. But then, no, I think the last commercial, he switched agents. And so, I think Aaron Rodgers needs to go back and work on that discount double check, because he was a better quarterback at that point in time. Let's see, what else? We had Tessa, who won the title for Impact. So kudos to her. Kind of weird that this whole backstory of her calling someone the N-word and spitting in their face and all this, all these accounts of her bullying people and stuff like that kind of came out the night before her big title match. They were saying that, we kept quiet until the person said it's okay to talk about it. But, it's very weird with the timing. Not saying that these events didn't happen, but it's very weird of the timing. Of course, it started from the tweet that Tessa had put out saying that, women should be together, work together and stuff like that. And it was actually copied by WWE. I forgot who did it, but someone, I think it was Keith Lee, actually. Keith Lee was like, hey, I saw, the guys working hard. We should do that a little more often or something like that. And I think Dominic Dijakovic tweeted back to him about it, which was pretty funny. But it was very weird timing, and she won the title. So I don't know. I don't watch Impact, so I don't know what they're going to do as far as with this. But, you know, I guess kudos to her. I didn't get to see NWA Power this week. A lot going on. It was a lot going on this week. I've been tired from work and everything. So I didn't get a chance to check it out. But I will this week. I will talk about it more next week. Probably a little bit of recap when I go over the predictions and everything. And then next week for episode 38, it will be a recap of the Royal Rumble. Hopefully the Royal Rumble will be over by like 11 o'clock or something, because I have to be at work early the next day. But yeah, very bad go-home show for WWE. An okay show for AEW, a pretty good show for NXT. I highly doubt WWE will learn their lesson as far as, you know, how bad Raw can be, but they won't, because we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep paying for it. So, and no matter what, they have the blood money anyway, so they don't really have much that they could lose right now. I am excited for the Royal Rumble. I'm hoping that we get some surprises. That's one of the things I love about the Royal Rumble match, is that, you know, you never know who's in it, and you'll get some surprises. I wish that we didn't have as many people declaring to be in the Royal Rumble, but I get it. He wants to keep things interesting, and so that people kind of know who's already in it, so that it can drive along a lot of storylines. But we'll see what happens this Sunday of who will be making a surprise entrant into the Royal Rumble and where everyone is going to fall. We already know who is number one, and I don't know. I'm going to predict that he's going to get eliminated by whoever he's going to feud with. I think it may be Roman Reigns, but he's not on Raw, so that probably won't make any sense. But you never know. You never know with WWE. So that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDEE Talks. And follow the podcast at WrestleBread as well. Be sure to let me know your thoughts of what happened this week, and also your predictions for the Royal Rumble as well. Until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.